Okay, so step number two, we're going to create a new Scratch project. So if you click on the link in step number two, it'll open up a new tab with the Scratch website. And then if you click on the Create button on the Scratch website, that will open up the Scratch project editor. So we can see there in step number two, there's a link, scratch.mit.edu. You just need to click on that. And as it says, it will open up a new tab for the Scratch website, and then click on the Create link on the Scratch website, and that will open up the Scratch project editor. So we've got 32 coders joining us so far. I can see some coders are working away. That's brilliant. And you're working away ahead of the step that I'm currently on. And again, that's no problem. You work away at your own pace. There's about 12 or 13 steps in this lesson, in this project. If you do want to work away ahead of me, that's great. All the information is in those steps. You should just be able to follow it along and do it. Okay, so the Scratch website, the Scratch project editor. So it starts with the cat as usual, but we don't need the cat sprite. So we're going to delete that by clicking on the little trash icon of the cat. I'm going to mark my step number two as done and see how everyone is doing. So in step number one, if you missed step number one, I can see some people just joining in. Step number one is just a video about self-driving cars, if you want to take a look at that. Okay, so I can see 16 coders have completed step number two. That's brilliant. So we'll just keep on. We'll just give a little bit of time for people to complete step number two, and then I'm going to move on to step number three. Step number three, we're going to be adding in the car sprite. So the car sprite here in step number three, we can see that there's an image here. And we need to upload this image into our Scratch project as a sprite. So what we need to do is we need to download it onto our computers first, and then we need to upload it into Scratch as a sprite. So you'll see the car, it's a bird's eye view of a car, and it's got these three shapes on it, the red, blue, and the kind of yellow, these ellipse shapes. And we're going to use these as the sensors of the car to detect where it is on the road, if it's touching the grass, and if so, we're going to need to make the car move. So we're going to give the car instructions to move left and right or go forward based on these sensors. So to save it, you just right click and then say save image as, choose the folder you want to save it in and click on OK. I've already saved it, so it just asks me to replace it. And then so again, that's just right click and save image as, and that will save the file onto your computer. Then you need to go into your Scratch project. Let me get rid of my head here and click upload sprite. So we can upload the file image into our project. So find the folder where you downloaded it, select your file, and then click on open, and that will add it to your project. Like you can see, mine is added in there. The car sprite is added in my project, ready to go. If you can't, for whatever reason, if you can't upload the image, so save it onto your computer and upload it into Scratch, you can click on the grey upload, can't upload the image button, and then click on the link, and that's going to open up a starter project that already has the car added, already has the car sprite added. So again, if for any reason you can't download the image onto your computer and upload it into Scratch, just click on that grey button and then click on the link, and that will open up the starter project, and you can just go ahead and use that project. So I'm going to mark step number three as done and see how everyone is doing. So I can see 15 coders have already completed step number three. That's brilliant. So I'll give some more time for people to do step number three. So just take your time. Download it onto your computer first of all, and then upload it into Scratch as a new sprite. Okay. So how are we doing? If you're wondering why my audio isn't synced up with the little image of me down the right hand side, it's because when I was recording this, the audio messed up. Well, I messed up. I had my voice changer on it, so as I was speaking, I sounded like a robot, which I'm sure was very fun for everyone, but probably got annoying after a little while. So that's why I'm just kind of re-recording this audio. So all I'm saying here is in step number 1, we just have some information about how an autonomous car works. And there's a video there of the Tesla Autopilot, which shows how the Tesla Autopilot works, how it uses cameras and sensors to sense the road and then navigate the car through it. Okay, so we're going to move on now to step number 4. So in step number 4, we're going to actually add in some code. So all we've done so far is just uploads the car sprite, but as you would have noticed, it's quite large. So we need to shrink it down so it's a lot smaller. So we're going to say when green flag clicked, set size to 10%. And that's going to shrink the car right down to the size that we want it. Okay, so what we're going to do is go into the yellow events toolbox and drag in a when green flag clicked. Let's zoom in a little bit. And then because we're changing the looks, we'll go to the looks toolbox and we're going to get a set size to 100% and join that in. But we're going to click on the 100 and change that to be 10. So set size to 10%. And now when we click on the green flag, you'll see the car shrink right down to the size that we need. Okay, so I'm going to mark my step as done. And if everyone wants to go ahead and do that, I'll give everyone a little bit of time to do step number 4. So it's just scrolling down. I can see lots of people are working ahead on step number 3, 4, and 5. So that's brilliant. If you do want to work ahead, again, no problem. Work right ahead. Just follow the instructions in each step. Take your time. Don't try and rush it. You know what happens when you try and rush through things. You might miss something, and then something, you're going to come up with little problems and so on. If you do have any issues or anything like that, or you're confused about something, you can use the green react button to give me a red thumbs down, and I'll see that in the chat. Or you can click on the blue chat button and type your message in there. If I'm going too fast, or if you want me to repeat, step number 3 or 4 or whatever, just type it into there so I can see that you need a little bit of help. But scrolling down, I think everyone is okay. So that's brilliant. I can see people look up to step number 5. Fantastic. You can also, if you want to put in reactions, if you find something funny or whatever, you can use the green button to put in reactions into the chat. So the next step is we're going to be drawing a test track. Okay, so what we need to do is kind of draw a test track by filling in the background green, like green of the grass, and then drawing a simple black oval track or rectangle track. You'll see it here in the little animation. So first of all, we need to click on the stage area down the bottom right, and then click on costumes up the top left, and that will open up the backdrop editor. Once we have the backdrop editor, what we're going to do is we're going to use the paint bucket tool to fill in the background green of the grass, and then we're going to use the paintbrush tool to draw a black track. But very importantly, we need to set the size of that brush to be 90, so it's a nice thick track like that, and that our car will fit along. So I can actually show you how to do this now. So you can follow all the steps there in step number 5 if you want, all the instructions, or you can watch me do it here and I'll show you how to do it. So I'm going to switch to my scratch tab. I'm going to get rid of my head. First of all, I'm going to click on this stage area here so it gets the blue border around it. Click on stage and then go up to the top left and click on the backdrops tab here. So I'm going to click on backdrops, and this opens up the backdrop editor. So we're going to need to fill in this area here, green, the green of grass. So the way I always do this is I click convert to bitmap, and then I choose the paint bucket tool here, and then I'm going to choose my green. So just use the controls here just to choose a green for the green of the grass, whatever you think will look nice. Once you have your color and you're happy with it, just click anywhere in the box and it paints it all in green. So it fills it all in green. And then I'm going to click convert to vector down the bottom again. And now I can use the paintbrush tool. So I'm going to choose the paintbrush tool here, and then I'm going to choose black just by turning the brightness all the way down, and that will give me a nice black color. And the last thing we do is need to change the thickness of the brush. At the moment it's 10, and you can see the little black dot there. That's not big enough to draw, you know, a road for my car to fit down. So I'm going to change 10 to be 90. And now when it's 90, you'll see that the black circle that of the brush is nice and large. So I'm just going to draw a simple oval track, making sure not to touch the edges because I want the grass to run all the way along. So I just hold down the left mouse button and move around and draw a simple oval track just like that. Okay. And once you do draw it, you'll see it goes in to your stage area. So I'm going to mark my step number 5 as done and see how everyone is doing. So I can see some people are up to step number 6 and 7, which is brilliant. I don't see any comments in there for people having any questions. So that's fantastic. Again, if you do have any questions, just type them into the chat. Give me a red thumbs down. I can see 15 coders have already completed step number 5 to draw the test track. That's fantastic. But I'll give some more time. But just take your time. You don't need to do anything elaborate here. You don't need to draw an elaborate track. If you do make a mistake like this, like if you draw you know, something you don't want, you can just click the undo button. But do make sure that the track doesn't touch any of the edges, because we need grass all the way around for the sensors to be able to detect if it's run off the track or not, and we can correct the car. So at the moment, we're just setting up the project. We haven't really added in the code yet for the car to actually start moving and sensing, but we will get to that now in a few minutes. We're just setting everything up for the moment now. So I'm just going to go back into my code by clicking on the code tab and then my car. Let's see how everyone is doing. I can see 14 coders have completed step number 5. So for step number 6, we're going to be placing the car on the track. But I'll just hang on a minute to let people complete step number 5. So at this point in the video, I'm actually saying that I can do a little quiz, and the prize is going to be I can put on a voice changer on my mic. But little did I know that I already had the voice changer on my mic. So just going to give people time to complete step number 5. Again, don't do anything too elaborate. Don't do anything too elaborate for your track. You can always do that at the end. So for the moment, you just want a simple oval track or kind of rectangular box-shaped track that your car can navigate through. And then at the end, if you do want to put in more complicated, more challenging tracks, you can actually create new backdrops into your project and add them as different tracks that your car has to navigate through. Okay, I don't know if I've realized yet that my voice changer is still on. Let me just quickly check.
Take part in this. So some countries drive on the left and some on the right.
So you can hear my you can hear the voice changer is still on. So I think I realize it in about 30 seconds or so. I'll switch back to the actual audio in a second. Let's hear me sound like a bit of a fool.
Right hand side, type right. And we'll see, and whoever picks it right gets to choose the voice changer.
Your voice changer is already on, Alan.
I'll maybe give you a preview of...
Here's where I realized the voice changer. So oh, was my voice changer on? Tell me my voice changer wasn't on. I think it might have been. Okay.
So this is the baby voice changer. So if this will be one of the things I can turn on.
So but I'll wait to see if people do the left or the right, if they type it in. Okay, so I'm going to let original Alan continue on with this lesson, so in my normal voice. So enjoy the rest of the lesson. Place your car on the track. So this is step number 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag, first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag our car onto the track to place it on the track, and then we're going to add in some code we're going to use a go to XY button and a point in direction 90 button. Or sorry, not button, block. And what these will do is just at the start when we want to reset, when we click on the green flag, it's going to put the car back up on the track and it's going to point it in the right direction. So you need to drag your car onto the track. And then after you've done that, so that's very important. First thing is to drag your car onto the track. And then you're going to drag in a go to XY block and it'll be pre-filled with the numbers for that position that you dragged your car to. So you don't need to change those once you've dragged your car. And then point in direction 90, which is to pointing it here to the right hand side. Okay, so I will mark that step as done. And I will give people just a little bit of time to complete step number 6. So remember, drag your car first onto your track and then add in those 2 new code blocks there. Okay, so how are we doing? I can see that 12 coders have completed to step number 6, so I'll give it a little bit more time for that. People might still be working on drawing your test track. So again, if you are drawing your test track, just do something nice and simple for the moment, and later on, if you have a little bit of extra time at the end, you can actually add in more tracks to this project. So you can have multiple tracks that your car is going to navigate through. So I see we're up to 13 coders have completed this step. So I'll just give a little bit more time before we move on to step number 7. So just to kind of give a preview, in step number 7, we're going to create a variable where we can control the speed of the car. Okay, so I can see we are up to 14 coders. I'll wait till we are up to 15 coders. Once we have 15 coders completing step number 6, then we will move ahead. I can see some coders are just joining in now, and that's no problem. If you are just joining in now, if you want to just take your time and just work your way through the steps, all the information is in the steps, show you exactly what to do. So just take your time and work your way down through the project. So I'm still waiting for that 15th coder to complete step number 6 before we move on to step number 7. Okay, so we'll move on to step number 7. So in step number 7, what we're going to do is we're going to create a speed variable. So a variable is something that remembers a value. So for instance, if you play any game, say you play Fortnite or anything like that, a variable in the game might be your health. So at the start, your health starts off at 100, and during the game, if you get hit or anything like that, your health goes down. So the health variable will just remember the number of your current health, and it'll store it in there. So we're going to create a variable called speed, and we're going to set it to be 5 at the start, and then we're going to be able to change it to make the car go faster and slower. So there's a little tip there to show you how to create a variable, but I'm going to actually show you here myself. So if I go into my Scratch tab here and I go into the variables toolbox here, this orange one here, there's a make a variable button. So I'm going to click on make a variable, and it opens up this box which is asking me what do I want to call this new variable. So I'm going to call it speed, S-P-E-E-D, and we can leave it for all sprites and then click on OK. And that will create the speed variable here, and it'll add in these blocks that I can now use. So at the start of the project, when we click on the green flag, we want to set the speed variable to be 5. So I'm going to drag in set my variable to 0, and I'm going to click on the little white arrow and change that to be speed, and then change this to be 5. Okay. If I click on the green flag, nothing really happens because we haven't programmed the car yet to do anything to move, but we will be getting to that now in the next step. So I'm going to mark step number 7 as done. And see how everyone was doing. I can see a lot of people are kind of moving ahead. That's brilliant. If you do get to the end, try and add in another track if you can. And you can maybe program the space key on your keyboards to switch between the tracks. There's a next backdrop block you can use that you can add in, and that will alternate through the tracks that are the backdrops that you create with your tracks on them. So in the next step, what we're going to be doing is actually programming the car to start moving forward. So far we've just been setting up everything, but now what we're going to do, now that we have everything set up, we have our car, we have our track, we have a place in the right place, pointing in the right direction, and we have our speed variable. Now we're ready to actually program the car to start moving. So we're going to do that now in step number 8. But I'll give a little bit more time just for people to finish if they are working on step number 7. Okay, so I can see 13 coders have completed step number 7. So we'll move on to step number 8. So step number 8, we're going to program the car to start moving forward. So how are we going to do that? Well, if you remember the 3 ellipses that are on the car, so if I go back up to the top here in step number 3, so we're going to use these shapes to test or to sense where the track is and where the grass is. So if the car is touching the grass on either side, or if it's just touching the road. So for the blue sensor in the middle, what we're going to do is we're going to say if the blue sensor, if blue is touching the black of the road, then we must be on the road. So we're going to drive forward. So we're going to move forward using the speed variable. So whatever number is in the speed variable, we're going to move forward at that speed, that amount of steps. So again, there's little animations that will show you exactly what the code you need to add. But if you want to, I'm going to show you now on my screen and talk through it. So first of all, we want to keep on doing this. So we want to keep on checking if the blue sensor is touching the black of the road. We want to keep on testing if that's true or false. So to do that, we need a loop block. So we're going to get a forever block. So into the control toolbox and get a forever block and put that underneath the speed, set speed to 5. And then we want to get our if then block. So this is where we're going to test if the blue is touching the black, if it's true or if it's false. So we get an if then block, and that's in the control toolbox, and put it inside the forever block. So the forever block will expand down. And now we need to sense something. So we're going to go into the sensing toolbox, and we're going to get the third one down that says color is touching color. So if we bring this in, you'll see that this fits in to the shape in the if then, and we drop it in there. And now we need to change the colors to be correct. So we want to be able to select the colors of the car. We need to make it big again. So I'm going to actually change this to be 100 and click on green flag just to expand the car again. And I want to get the blue sensor. So I click on the first color in the block and then the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to get the blue of the sensor. And then I'm going to choose the second color in the block, and I'm going to get the black of the road. So if blue is touching black, and I can change this back to 10% now. So if it is, we're going to move forward. So we go into motion and get move 10 steps. But we're going to change that to be, instead of 10 steps, we want to actually get our speed variable. So go into variables and drag in speed. And you'll see that I can actually put this speed block inside the move 10 steps instead of the 10. And it changes to move speed steps. So when I click on the green flag now, you'll see my car moves along. So while it's touching the black of the road, the blue sensor touching the black of the road, the car moves forward, and it stops once the blue sensor is not touching the black of the road. It stops because this code doesn't run anymore because this is false. So it just bypasses or skips this. So if you want to go ahead and do step number 8 to drive forward, I can see 8 coders already have. So this is the kind of exciting part. So after we set everything up, now we're actually programming the car to move. So we can actually see it move, and it's moving itself just by sensing where it is. In the next couple of steps, we're also going to use the other sensors to detect where the grass is, and we're going to turn left or right based on that. So I'll give people some more time, give the coder some more time to complete step number 8. So just take your time adding in the code. Make sure you do put in the right code blocks. So just again, make sure you choose the right ones from the toolbox. And to choose the colors, what I would recommend is setting the size to be 100%, just so the car goes big. And then that way you can use the eyedropper tool to get the exact colors that you need of the blue sensor and the black of the road. And then you can change it back to 10 and click on green flag, and that will put it back to 10. So just take your time adding in those. Okay, so now we'll move on to step number 9. So in step number 9, what we're going to do is we're going to detect if the red sensor is touching the green of the grass, and if so, we're going to turn right. So the red sensor is the sensor on the left-hand side. So if this sensor here is touching the grass, that means we're going to need to make the car turn to the right to stay on the track. Okay, so to do that, let me skip down to step number 9 and we'll zoom in and I'll just explain the code. So we're going to add in, so underneath the if then of if blue is touching black, we're going to add in another if then, but this time we're going to say if the red of the red sensor is touching the green of the grass, then we're going to turn clockwise 10 degrees and that will make the car turn. So let me go up here, I'll show a little example. So when the red sensor touches the green of the grass, it'll make the car turn to the right. So that's how it should look like once we have added in the code. So I'm going to add in this code now if you want to watch me do it, if you want to see how it's done. So again, I'm going to change this to be 100%, so set size to 100% just for the moment. So click the green flag and click the red flag if you want to make the car stop, just so I'll be able to get the color of the red. I'm going to go into the control toolbox and get an if then. And here's where it might get a little bit tricky because this can go loads of different places and you want to put it in the right place. So it needs to go inside the forever block, but underneath the if color blue is touching black. So where I'm putting it here, not inside the if blue is touching color black, it has to go underneath like that. So that's very important. If it goes in the wrong place, then it mightn't reach this part of the code and it mightn't work. Then we'll go into sensing again and get another color is touching color and put that in the if then. And let's get the red. So put the red in the first color, so the red of the sensor. And for the second color, we need to get the green of your grass. So it's very important you get the exact colors of your project. Otherwise, the code won't work because people might have put in different color greens for their grass. You need to get the green of your grass. Otherwise, the code won't work. And now to turn right, we go into motion and get the turn clockwise 15 degrees. So we can see there's a turn clockwise and a turn anti-clockwise. We're going to get the turn clockwise 15 degrees and put that inside the if then, if red is touching green, and change the 15 to be 10. Let me go into full screen here. Oh, I need to change this back to 10%. And I'll go into full screen and click on the green flag and we'll see if it works. Oh, brilliant. So we can see the red sensor there is touching the green of the grass and it's making the car go around the track. So it's not actually it's not at the moment because the right sensor doesn't actually touch off the grass the way I've drawn my track. It's not actually even crashing, but if I was to go in, let me just modify my track slightly. If I kind of let me get the green of the grass. If I kind of angle this down like that, hopefully this should make it go crash. So we need to program the right sensor next, but we'll do that in a second. So I'm going to mark my step number 9 as done. And, clicking it too fast. And I will wait to see how everyone is doing, and then we'll move on to step number 10. So that was the code for turning right. So again, just take your time. You can, and I do it all the time, put your code in the wrong place by accident. And then you run your code and it doesn't work and you're like, why isn't it not working? So you need to go back and kind of look at the code and make sure you've put it into the right place. But that's okay, because when that happens, and it happens to me all the time as well, it just helps you with your learning of the code, because you're able to kind of look at it and go, oh, that's not right. I need to put this under here, or whatever it might be. So I can see 9 coders have already completed step number 9, so that's brilliant. Well done, everyone. But I'll give some more time for people to complete that step. Okay, so hopefully that was enough time for everyone to complete step number 9. If not, just keep on going at your own pace. Just as I said, follow the instructions in each step and you'll be able to do the project. Okay, so we'll move on now to turning left. So for turning left, it's just basically the same principle. So we're going to use the mustard coloured or the yellow coloured sensor to detect when that touches the green of the grass. And if it does, then we need to correct the car by turning left. So to do that, we just need to add in another if then. And again, it needs to be underneath the other ones, not inside them. So if the yellow is touching the green of the grass, then we're going to turn anti-clockwise 10 degrees. So let's add this code. So I'm going to go back into my Scratch project. So there is an easy way to actually, instead of dragging in these blocks again, like I showed you yesterday, if you want to duplicate a group of blocks, up the left-hand corner of whatever group of blocks that you want to duplicate, if you just right-click, or if you're using Chromebooks, you click twice, you double-click or using your 2 fingers, and then choose duplicate. That will create a copy of those blocks. And we want to put this in underneath the if then of the red touching green and inside the forever. So make sure you don't put it inside one of the if thens. It needs to go underneath the if then. Again, I'm going to make my car go 100% so I can get the yellow. So I'm going to change the color here of the first one to be the kind of yellow mustard color. I don't need to change the green of the grass because it's already selected, because I copied it, because I duplicated it, it's already the exact same. But I do need to get rid of this turn clockwise 10 degrees, and I need to bring in a turn anti-clockwise, and I'll change that to 10 degrees. So now when I change this back to 10%, let me go into full screen and run my code. So I know that the turning right works and the driving forward works. That's all working fine. But here's where it needs to test if the turning left works, and it does. Brilliant. So that's my code. You can see it now working its way through. Let me watch it again. So that's the right sensor making it turn right, and the left sensor, or the yellow sensor making it turn left. Okay, so let me mark my step as done and see how everyone is doing. So we've programmed it to go straight, turn right and turn left. Oh, people are flying along. Brilliant, 12 coders have already completed that. And we haven't really, we've used the speed variable, but in the next step, and I'll give you more time to complete the turning left, but just as a preview, in the next step, we're actually going to increase and decrease the speed. So use the arrow keys on our keyboard. We're going to program those to make the speed go up and the speed go down, and see how that affects the car as we're going around the track that we've drawn. But I'll give everyone a little bit more time to complete step number 10. I can see that some coders have actually completed the project already. If you have completed the project, why don't you try adding in, if you've got the time, why don't you try adding in your own idea into it? So change it somehow, change the project, change the code. One challenge I would give you, or one idea I would give you, would be to add in extra tracks. I'll maybe show you that at the end, but see if you can figure out how you can add in another backdrop and draw another track and then switch between the two, because that's a kind of cool thing to do. Okay, so we'll move on to step number 11. So step number 11, we're going to make the car speed up and slow down. So let's have a look at a little animation preview. So we can see the car, you can see the speed here is increasing. It starts at 5 and it goes all the way up to 17 and it makes the car crash. Which is fine because we're going to actually add in some code to correct it when it does crash. So to do this, we're just going to program the up and the arrow keys. So the up arrow, when we press it, it's going to increase the speed by 1, so change speed by 1. And the down arrow key, we're going to program that to decrease, so change speed by -1. And doing that will make the car go faster and slower. So I'm going to add in this code. So this is code we can add into the car. So I'm just going to click on stop for the moment. I'm going to go into the events toolbox to get a when space key pressed block, the second one down. And I'm going to click on the little white arrow here so I can change what key I'm programming. As you can see, you can program any key on your keyboard, but we're going to program the up arrow. So the up arrow on your keyboard. And what we're then going to do is go into the variables because we want to change the speed variable. And we're going to say change my variable by 1, but we're going to change that by clicking on the little white arrow to be speed. So now the block says change speed by 1. So when we press the up arrow, change speed by 1. Let's quickly test if that works. I'm pressing the up arrow. You can see it go up there each time I press it. Speed increases by 1. And then we're going to do the same thing. So when space key pressed again and change it to down arrow and into variables and change my variable by 1, but change it to be speed. And then instead of changing it by 1, we'll change it by -1. So down arrow, -1. So let's see if this works. Up arrow faster. Oh, crashed already. And down arrow slower. So I can actually make it stop. And I can actually make it reverse if you go into the minus. So I can see that that's working there. So if you want to go ahead and do step number 11, just to be able to control the speed and make it go up and down. So brilliant. I can see 11 coders have already done it. So you coders are absolutely brilliant. You're flying through this quicker than I can do it. So it's always interesting when you do add in the speed variable because now you can see when you go too fast, it just, it will crash at certain points. But we're going to put in something to try and fix that, to correct it when it does crash, when it does go off the track. And again, there's no drivers here. Once you press go, it just goes. The code is the one that's driving. It's sensing the road, the track, the grass, and then it's making decisions based on that. So when it does go off the track, we're going to have to add in some code to correct it and get it back onto the track. But we'll do that in the next step. Again, just for any of the coders that have completed the project, try adding in something, your own idea into it. My suggestion is to do an extra track if you can, which I will show you at the end if we have time on how to do that. But do use the time just to kind of explore a little bit and see what you can do. It's always a great way of learning, just to kind of explore. Don't worry if you break it. There's no problem if you break it, but you'll learn something as you're doing it. So give it a go and see if you can add something into it. You might be able to add in, I've done this project before and some students have added in kind of go faster arrows or lines and that's a different color. So when the car touches those, it boosts the speed variable by 10 or something like that. So you can do things like that. Okay, so we'll move on to the reverse. So as we can see, let's add in, or let's try and make my car crash. Boom. Okay, so my car has crashed there. So when the car has crashed, none of the sensors are touching the black of the road, and more importantly, the blue sensor is not touching the black, it's touching the green. So that's how we can detect or sense when the car has crashed or gone off the road. When the middle blue sensor is touching the green, we're going to need to correct the car. So to do that, we're going to make the car reverse. but we're also going to make it turn a little bit as it reverses. Otherwise, if we don't make it turn as it reverses, it'll just reverse and keep on shooting back into the same place, and it'll just keep on happening. Whereas if we make it reverse, it'll go back onto the road at a different angle, and hopefully it'll correct itself and be able to keep on going. So the codes that we're going to add in is just, you guessed it, another if then. So we're going to say if the blue sensor is touching the green of the grass, then we're going to make the car move -2 steps. So that's reverse it because it's a minus figure. And we're also going to make it turn clockwise 5 degrees so that it doesn't go into the same spot. Okay, so let me quickly add this in. So I'm going to need to set my car to be 100% again. So I can get the blue of the sensor, and I'm going to duplicate one of the if thens. And oh, my car has gone off the track. Come back. And I'm going to choose the blue sensor. So blue goes in the first color of the block, and then green of the grass. I can leave that as it is. So I'll take this one out. So if the blue is touching the green, what we want to do is move -2 steps and also turn. It doesn't matter if you're turning clockwise or anti-clockwise, but just a small amount, turn 5 degrees. So let me put my speed or my size back to 10%. And now let's go into full screen. So we can see my car driving around, and I'm going to increase the speed so that it crashes. So you can see it crashes, and when it crashes, you'll see it kind of juts. It means it's kind of just reversing back out at a different angle. It might go a little bit crazy because I'm kind of going a little bit too fast, maybe go a little bit slower. There we can see it correcting itself. Okay, my track kind of makes it just go a little bit wonky here, but you get the idea. So the car is just driving itself around the track. There's no driver, it's just using the sensors and the code, which is the instructions, to navigate the track. So if you are following along with me, if you want to go ahead and do step number 12 to make it reverse, and that is the final step in the code, in the project. But I want to show you in a couple of minutes. I'll give people a few minutes to do step number 12, but I want to then show you how you might add in your own idea into the project, which is definitely something I would recommend. So I'll just give one more minute for people to do step number 10. So you can drag the code in, the blocks in, or you can just duplicate. I find it easier to duplicate. It's just a little bit quicker, but you can do it either way. Okay, so hopefully that was enough time. So let's talk about how we might improve the project. So as I said, there's loads of different ideas that you could do, and it's always a good idea when you do a project like this, it's just step by step, and hopefully you get down to the end and you have it working. It's always a good idea to put your own idea into it. It's always a good idea to put your own idea into it. Idea a couple of times. So I think a good idea is to put in an extra track. So different tracks for your car to navigate, because it's interesting to see if it works, and you'll kind of find out different conditions that, oh, I might need to change my code to kind of cater for this scenario, or to deal with this scenario. So at the moment we have a simple enough track, but let's add in another track. So to do that, I'm going to click on the stage area, and then I'm going to click on backdrops, and I can see my backdrop up here, the top left. I can actually right click on this and say duplicate, and it'll create a copy of it. So once I created a copy of it, so I've backdrop 1 and backdrop 2, I can use the arrow tool to select my track and I can press delete, or let me undo that. So I can select it using the arrow tool, or you can click this button here, delete, and that will delete it. And then if I choose the paintbrush tool again, I have my grass, I just need to leave my grass the same. And this time I'm going to draw a more complicated track. So it's kind of a figure of 8 with a little bit of a wavy, curvy area of it. So now when I click on the green flag, you'll see that my car is now driving around this track. And if you wanted, you can duplicate again, create another track. What I would say is it is important to draw a track at the part where the car starts. So it is important to have that, but you can draw whatever track you want. You do ultimately want it to be a loop. Oh, I'm going to run out of space here. I'm going to actually need to put some green back in just along the top here, like so. So you can draw lots of different tracks, and then to program it to switch between the tracks, you can simply add in some code. You can go in and say events, and you can program maybe the space key on your keyboard, and just go into looks and say next backdrop. So now each time I press the space key, it changes between the different tracks. So if I want to try out this one, I can put on this one. If I press the the space key, it'll change between the tracks. So that's a simple way, just another little addition to the project, which makes it a little bit better. So where you've got actual different tracks that you can test your self-driving car with. Okay, so let's improve it. So what I would say is, if you do that, if you want to share your project, you can click the purple Share Your Project button, and it'll give you instructions on how you can share a project. And when you share a project on our platform, it just goes into our Codeverse. So the projects get shared in here. I can see lots of people have completed the project, and other coders can actually see your project and comment, or not comment, but react to it and like it and so on. So that's it for today. Sorry about the audio issues at the start. We'll fix that in the recording anyway. But the project is up there for everyone to complete and to work their way through the instructions. Tomorrow we're going to be doing an arcade game. So we're not going to be using Scratch tomorrow. We are going to be doing block code, but we're going to be making an arcade game. So any of your gamers out there, hopefully you will like this one. But we will see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Bye.